Hi guys, Kaiser here, and welcome back to the channel. As today we're taking a look at the Steam Next Fest demo that I personally found the most fascinating, and that demo was for Millennia. Millennia is an upcoming 4X turn-based strategy game that's very much in the vein of something like Civilization, Humankind, or Old World, where you lead an empire through the eras of history and try to have the best empire of them all at the end of it. But there's an interesting twist for Millennia that I think makes it intriguing, and that twist is alternate history. See, the players on the board are going to be vying for control of the course of history as the game progresses. It might hew very closely to our real-world history, or it might go in some wacky alternate history dimensions like steampunk, or the age of alchemy, or invading aliens in the late game, or something like that. It's a really interesting concept, and I think could make Millennia a lot of fun. I've shared this game on the channel before, shared my interest in it, and with the Steam Next Fest demo, I finally got my hands on the game. So what do I think? What are the pros? What are the cons? Well, that's what this video is about. I want to share with you some of my feedback after playing through the game. And let's go ahead and dive right in. I think it would be fun to share with you what I think are some of the strengths of this game, as well as perhaps, I don't want to say weaknesses per se, maybe weaknesses, or maybe just things you should know to see whether or not this is a game that you would be interested in. If you like the idea of this video, by the way, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, and also consider wishlisting this game on Steam if it does seem like something that interests you. But with that, I finally booted into turn 50 of my own gameplay, and the demo let you go through the first 60 turns of a game, which was a lot of fun. And before I get into the particulars, let me just say very quickly that overall, the game was a lot of fun, just doing the normal 4X things. Exploring the map, training units, constructing buildings. It was a lot of fun to play with, and I think the fundamentals are maybe the most important thing. You've got to start there before you get into the unique mechanics of the game. And I had fun with the fundamentals, so that's a good first sign. But I do want to share a couple of things that I think are really enticing and encouraging about Humankind. And what I want to share with you first is the improvements and the culture system, the powers system, if you will. Think about Civilization for a second. I'm imagining many of you guys watching this video are familiar with Civ. In Civilization, if you want to do many things in the game, you've got to start with production. That's sort of the beating heart of your empire. Think about it. If you want to build a new settlement, a new city, you have to construct a settler, or you need to construct a worker in order to put improvements on the map. But Humankind does things a little bit differently, and at least in my playthrough of the game, I found this fascinating. You see this number in the bottom left-hand corner? These are your improvement points. And you have to construct certain buildings or perform certain quests, open up certain quest lines or challenges in order to earn improvement points, or improvement points per turn. And if I pull up this menu, let me get this menu out of the way here. You see I've got different things unlocked, like a press or a pasture, a plantation, a hunting camp. Let me click a press here. I can use my improvement points to construct these improvements across the map. So bam, 17 improvement points down, and I have a press ready to go on my map here. And I think that's really cool. It takes a little bit of getting used to because it's different from how other games do it. But I found it really exciting as I got to play around with this system, because as I'm developing my capital of Hamburg early on, and of course, you start the game with just the one city, but I found that there were very different elements of the game that I could invest into. For example, I could go into, producing more food for my city, or more production so I could build things faster, or separately, I could work on buildings that improve my improvement points per turn. So that would allow me to invest in my terrain and the width of my empire more easily, and that was really interesting. Or I could construct buildings that improved my culture and my various domains. And let me talk about the culture system, which is pretty neat. If I go into my city, let's talk about, I want to, settle a new settlement, right? I want to build a new city. Well, in Civilization, you'd have to construct a settler. But you'll notice when I go into my build menus here, there is no settler in the units function, right? Instead, I would need to go over to my various domains and go into government. And I have to have a solid enough government. I need to be building up government points in order to spend on spawning a settler. And I found this really exciting and encouraging because it means that you are forced to invest in different elements of your nation. Here, I could invest very much in building a central government and sort of a cultural identity in order to accrue government points faster, so I could spend those points on spawning a settler, or, if I'm so inclined, raising a tribal army very quickly, either for defense or offense. But I can use those points in either of those directions. And as you play the game, you slowly unlock more domains that unlock more powers for you. For example, here with the exploration domain, I can spawn a scout or claim additional territory. Actually, we can do that right now. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. So you do passively expand your borders, but you can also use exploration to claim a key area, an important part of the land right away with your exploration focus. Or I could spawn a utility ship. In this particular game, I invested a lot into my warfare XP. So I could do things like give an army movement points back so they can go an extra turn that turn, right? Or I could heal them up with reinforcements. They do slowly heal by themselves, but I can get them in fighting shape right away by using warfare XP. Or I could use volunteers to spawn in more army units to fight for my cause, right? And as you go down, you unlock more domains. I'm sure there are plenty that I've not even unlocked yet. But engineering lets me do things like repair, like right here I have a farm that was raided by barbarians. I would need to use my engineering domain in order to repair that infrastructure. Or diplomacy. This is actually a really big one. On top of everything else, integrating a vassal. Why is that so important? Because in Millennia, when I send a settler, like for example Essen here, that city actually starts as a vassal. And so, on the one hand, that's a positive. It means that it's not draining as much from my coffers, if you will, to support the needs of Essen. But on the other hand, I'm not getting as much out of Essen, and even more importantly, I am not directly directing the development of Essen. I can't tell it what to build or what to focus on. It's sort of doing its own thing. So I need to use a combination of my government focuses to actually expand across the map, assuming I'm not using the military to do that, to settle across the map, and then using the diplomacy and the vassal integration to speed along the process of these vassals actually becoming integrated into my empire. Which I think is really interesting both from a gameplay point of view, because it forces you to focus on different elements of your empire and to manage correctly the different aspects of your kingdom. Like here, I probably have gone too heavily into warfare, and if I had spread that out into other, like government, for example, I could have spread across the map much faster. I also think it makes a lot of sense from a historical point of view. It captures the idea of running an empire in a way that makes sense. That you would have to lean on different legs of the stool that is your kingdom. It makes sense, and it's a really fun way of playing a 4X game. At least in the 60 turns that I played, it was a lot of fun. Just to tool around with the different abilities, and having not everything being thrown back into production. It's just a different way of doing it, and it makes a lot of sense. I enjoyed it a lot. Now, of course, if we're going to talk about Millennia, we've got to talk about the alternate history. And let me load up turn 60 here to actually talk about the alternate history, because this was the element of the game I was most worried about. What I would have been disappointed by is if the alternate history was just sort of a coat of paint over the game. You get an extra unit here, a building there, and otherwise, it's pretty much the same game. Well, at least in the demo with the Age of Heroes, which is the alternate history path to, I believe it's called the Age of Iron. But the Age of Heroes is the alternate history path, and I'm excited to say that this is a really cool feature of the game because it actually significantly transforms how the game is played and what sort of things you can focus on in this particular era. When I entered into the Age of Heroes, and here we're in the final turn of the demo, I spawned in a hero unit. Her unit here is Helgi. Helgi is my hero, and not only did I just get, a strong unit, yay. No, I actually unlocked this whole mini-game extra layer to the Millennia experience. Because in the Age of Heroes, your heroes are able to go out across the map and unlock different quests and challenges, and they are striving to be the best heroes of the world. So here, when I've entered into the Age of Heroes, you can actually see on the map, I've unlocked legends and prophecies that my heroes can go visit in order to grow in strength and fame and just to be a better, stronger hero. And then I can send my heroes to quests like Duryodhana's Council. I know I pronounced that wrong. Or the Sun God's Altar. Those are both level 1 quests. Down here I've got Kurukshetra's Battleground, which is a level 2 quest. And I can go on these quests with my heroes in order to increase their strength, unlock unique quest rewards, and then also, sort of unlock the unique quest rewards, improve my hero, and ultimately, well, we're going to see right here. I'll actually share with you the final point. When I complete enough quests, I can unlock the legendary Parthenon building. So I'm unlocking what I assume is a wonder for my civilization by completing all of these quests. And so I've not been able to do a deep dive into the Age of Heroes. I wasn't able to go deep into it. But what I'm seeing is the experience meant a lot more than just, an extra unit here or a coat of paint. It really felt like I'd unlocked this whole new element of the game that otherwise would simply not be there if I went down the Age of Iron or the Age of Blood. And the Age of Blood is the other alternate history path. It's a crisis age, where if I had run across other player units and killed at least 3 of them, I would have plunged the whole globe into a constant era of war. Every civilization would be at war with each other. And, again, it shapes and transforms the way the game is played beyond just an extra tech here or a building there or a unique unit here. That kind of thing. It was really exciting. It felt like I had done something unique and special by going into the Age of Heroes. And that gives me a lot of excitement for the rest of Millennia. My encouragement to the devs, if they're listening, is to keep going in that direction. Make each alternate history unlock some new avenue of actually playing the game. That's what I experienced in the demo, and that is incredibly exciting. That leaves me recommending the game. I mean, I think this is going to be a really fun game when it actually releases. So we'll see, but I'm really excited about that. One final positive I want to talk about before I move into some of the negatives is I really like the look of this game. Overall, I love the aesthetic. Now, I grew up, I have in my heart kind of this love for the old school. I grew up on Age of Empires 2, Civilization 3, Civ 4, into Civ 5, right? And looking at this game, I really love the look and the presentation of this game. I have some people, including a good friend of mine, that does not like the aesthetic. But for me personally, I think this game looks great. Actually playing it and moving it around, overall, I'm very happy with the aesthetics. The look of the game, the sound of the game. The soundtrack is good. I really like how the music is thematic and present rather than sort of ambiance in the distance. It's not annoying or grating. It's also not distant. It's there and it helps give an emotion and a vibe to playing the game, which I very much enjoyed. So I do like a lot of those elements of the game. Now, I do think that there are some elements of the game that I think could be improved upon, or maybe won't be everyone's cup of tea. I've mentioned the aesthetics already, so let me go ahead and start there very quickly. First of all, I think that the HUD maybe looks a little bit cluttered. I can tell you that when I actually started playing the game, it is not as maybe confusing as it might look at first glance. But it does seem like, I mean, you can look at the screen right here, guys, and you see all of this information that is presented to you. I think that could be overwhelming at first blush, and maybe doing some things, like I might shut these down. I think that helps a little bit. These little pop-ups here, not that they're there when you start the game, but I think just some different elements of the HUD maybe could be slightly improved. One thing that we do have to talk about, let me go back to turn 50. One thing that I would be surprised if they don't change this, because there's been a lot of feedback. Maybe the most negative part of the game, for many people, is the combat. Not the combat itself. The combat itself is fine. It's fun. But the presentation in the battlefield window is a little jarring. Let me go ahead and pull it up. Whenever you get into a fight, every time you get into a fight, you have this little window where you get to see the forces battle each other back and forth. Team A goes, then Team B, then Team B, and then Team A, back and forth. They fight each other until enough turns have passed and one army is... Well, I won't say left standing, because it does pause after about 4 rounds. So here in this fight, I don't think one player eliminates the other completely. Although there's definitely a winner and a loser. But you can see as we watch this battle that the presentation is very robotic. It's like A, and then B, B, and then A. It's not very engaging. It's not exciting. And it also takes a long time. So after about the second or the third fight, you find yourself just wanting to skip past the animations and get to the point. I think that if you are going to have this sort of combat window, it needs a little bit more to be more exciting and engaging. It feels very bare bones. I've got to admit, it feels rather bare bones in this initial presentation. I also will highlight that as you unlock governments and go down different domains, you can unlock what are called national spirits, and they basically are the character of your people. Right. So here at turn 50, I have a tribal form of government, and I could later on unlock a kingdom government. I think I might actually have that option, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. No, in turn 60 I do, not in turn 50. But you can unlock things like a kingdom form of government or a dynasty form of government. And each government, as well as each national spirit, where, for example, in the early game I unlocked the ancient seafarers, which made my people good at water. And doing things like upgrading my, my utility boats are cheaper, and as I spend exploration points, here in this national spirit, instead of on my various powers, I can do things like make my docks better or give my early ships better attack and defense, right? Which is a really cool way of playing the game. Again, I love the mechanics of Millennia. But I will say that some of the figures here, at least for me personally, this is very subjective, are not the most exciting. Sometimes they felt a little bit plain. I like the overall art style, but they don't always click with me. I don't think that this guy here, for example, is the worst, but it's also not as engaging, and sometimes with some of the art that I've seen, I've even noticed what seems like artistic seams. Like you can almost see where the artist is putting together different assets and plugging them together in order to create the final character, and it's just not gripping for me personally. I've not heard a lot of people say that, so maybe that's just me, but it works for me sometimes, but not always. Now, we have to talk about what I think is maybe the main negative, and to do that, we have got to go back to the main menu. Okay, so here we are in Millennia, and when you boot up a new game, Iron Kaiser Gaming, just, you know what? Like and subscribe if you like this video, if you're enjoying what you're hearing so far. Let me know in the comments below. But anyway, the biggest issue that I have with the game, I think everyone needs to know this if you're considering Millennia. Civilization choices do not matter. We are very used to, if you're a 4X fan, you play a game like Civilization, if you play Civ 6, for example, you're used to civilizations having a specific leader with leader abilities, and a civilization with civilization abilities, and multiple unique units or unique buildings. sometimes in Civ 6, your civilization choice at the very beginning of the game almost defines the win condition you want to pursue at the very end. There are a lot of abilities tied into your civilization. Personally, I think Civ 6 has gone too far in that direction. I want Civilization 7 to sort of go back to the fundamentals and have a really solid foundational game, and then build those Civ abilities on top of that. But bringing it back to Millennia, this is sort of a throwback to kind of a Civ 2 or Civ 3 experience where your civilization choice really did not mean that much. Here, if I pick, let's say, China or France or India, let's go with France, for example. Picking France sort of locks in a very simple change to the game early on. Like, oh, I might get here additional, I guess this is tactics experience for my leaders, or I might get additional culture from my starting city. Or I might start the game with a little bit of extra improvement points or something like that. But even here in the custom games, if I decide I want to change how France plays, I can just pick any of these bonuses, and that's fine. And that means that France is ultimately nothing more than a flag and a couple of city names and hero names. And that's it. That is all you're doing when you pick a civilization. I appreciate the methodology behind what Millennia is doing. What I am seeing is a really solid 4X game, and they're getting those fundamentals down. It's almost like Age of Empires 2 way back in the day, or again, Civ 2 or Civ 3, where the game itself was so good, you didn't even need different civilization bonuses in order to make the game worth it. The base game, like chess, it was so good by itself that you wanted to play the game. And then they added on top of that some civilization bonuses. I appreciate the methodology, but I do think that this is the area where Millennia is at its weakest. I think a lot of people aren't going to enjoy this. Even someone like myself who really appreciates the methodology for the game design here for Millennia, I still think they're missing something. I think that these civs need to, at the very least, have a unique unit tied in, so that in Age 4, no matter what era of history you go down, the Ottomans are going to have Janissaries, or the French are going to have Grenadiers, or in Age 3, the Greeks will have hoplites, no matter what. That kind of thing, I think, would be something that people would enjoy, and I think gives the civilizations a little bit more flavor, because people love that flavor. That, I think you can do that without upending the whole mechanical cart and all the things you have going on in Millennia. That, for me, is the biggest issue. And that kind of dovetails a little bit into what I see as maybe the other issue I've noticed with Millennia. This will be my last point, and then I think I'm going to wrap it up. But the last point about Millennia that I've noticed is that the game, as good as it is mechanically, it's an extremely exciting game mechanically, in some elements feels a little bit dry. One aspect of the game that I did not run into personally, but I saw another Let's Player sort of share this experience that really highlights the strengths and the weaknesses of humankind. This player was playing through the game and had a situation where Rome declared, I forget the term that was used, but it's basically a war of neutral territory against the player. Rome showed up and said, okay, you know what? There's no such thing as neutral territory. There's just territory we haven't claimed yet. And what that means is if our units run into your units in neutral territory, we're going to fight each other, because we're basically laying claim to it. So it was really cool because mechanically it was very exciting, because what that means is it's not just a declaration of war. You know, you and I are now at war. It's total war, and you know we're going to raise your cities and destroy your towns and everything. No, it wasn't like that at all. It was a metered, measured kind of war. We are going to fight you in these specific situations. And from a gameplay mechanical point of view, that really excites me, because it makes me wonder, okay, as the game develops, am I able to develop lend-lease relationships where I can support Civilization B in its war against Civilization C? Or can I set up certain kinds of alliances, a defensive pact here or a research agreement there? And the idea that the diplomacy has mechanical depth is really exciting to me, and I look forward to seeing what Millennia can bring to the table in the final product. That's really exciting. But at the same time, what I saw in that Let's Player is that presentation of Rome declaring war of, neutral, unclaimed territory. It was presented as a pop-up with the Roman flag and, a really simple thematic little quote followed by a description of what this declaration of war does and does not mean. And that was it. It was presented very dryly. There are no leaders, and I think that's one of the greatest strengths of Civilization that is missing from Millennia, is you don't have Julius Caesar sauntering up to the camera to tell you how great Rome is and you're going to fall. When you play Civilization, you get the feeling that you are getting to know, at least Civ's version, of Gandhi or Napoleon or Alexander the Great or whatever, and they develop personalities, and when they declare war or you make an alliance, there are stories that are being told, and those stories feel personal, and they do not feel nearly as personal when it's just a flag being presented to you in a very dry sort of way. And that would be one other encouragement for the developers. Something that I think they should do is, when you've got these civilizations, create leaders for them. And I don't think it even has to be 3D art or, it could be something as simple as a couple of 2D sprites. Like you create Bismarck, and then you create happy Bismarck, angry Bismarck, neutral Bismarck, whatever. But you're creating leaders that you get to interact with. Or somehow, more broadly, bird's eye view, I think that where Millennia is at its weakest is that there are elements of the game that can feel dry. Whether you're talking about the combat window we saw earlier, whether you're talking about the diplomacy, even some of those art pieces that we talked about earlier with the national spirits, I think sometimes it can feel a little bit dry, and that will turn some people away, especially people who are looking for civilizations to have unique abilities and unique themes and to really capture the vibe of playing at least a pop culture version of France or Italy or whatever. But guys, I think that covers it. Again, I've ended here with negatives, but let me rewind and say this game is extremely promising. I love a lot of what I'm seeing out of Millennia. It was a lot of fun to play. I'm really excited to explore the different alternate history paths. That was really cool. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts. If you did, please consider again liking the video, subscribing to the channel. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see more Millennia or some other game. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and also consider again wishlisting Millennia on Steam, because going to Steam and wishlisting games really does help the developers out a lot. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys listening in. Have a great day and a great week out there. For now, this is the Iron Kaiser, signing off. God bless.